Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the reports that Nissan may have to pull out of Leave voting Sunderland because Brexit is making the business uncompetitive. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, Nissan in Sunderland has been a bit of a Brexit battleground for some years now. As Prime Minister, Theresa May held talks with them in order to persuade them that, it'll all be fine post-Brexit Britain. Of course it will, trade will be fine. At various points, Brexiteers have pointed to Nissan saying that they will remain in the UK after we leave the EU. But the problem is, you leave the single market in particular, but the customs union as well has an impact. And it's that for the manufacture of something very complex like a car, you cut yourself off from the continental-wide supply chain. You simply can't have all the means of producing cars located in one country, at least not for cars that most of us would be able to afford. Economies of scale just won't work for that. So outside the customs union single market, we have various problems. First, we've got problems getting supplies of components in from another country. We can't just order them on the just-in-time arrangements as before. Oh, we need these things in a couple of days. Well, tough. So you're forced to order much more, pay extra for the storage, staff needed to maintain and catalogue them, all the rest of it. And that's to say nothing of the difficulties in potentially selling the car to customers outside Britain. There's a reason why the only economist who has consistently backed Brexit, Sir Patrick Minford, said that the Tories would have to collapse the car industry in Britain after leaving the EU. He told them that's the only thing to do. We've seen car manufacturing hitting the UK since Brexit. Now, as with, many other things, there are various factors. Of course, car manufacturing took a big blow everywhere by the pandemic. But as I discussed in a video recently, other countries have seen their production increase. Ours is still going down. Also, our production has been going down ever since the referendum result was announced, whereas in other countries it was increasing, it was growing. The only country that also took a knock was Germany, but that was down to their Volkswagen diesel scandal. Other countries saw growth year on year as ours was shrinking. In a recent article in the Times, Nissan has said that their Sunderland plant is uncompetitive, as things stand. And they cited two main reasons, only one of which is Brexit, sure, but both are Tory. First, they said that the automotive supply chain in Britain is being eroded. Now, as I say, leaving the customs union single market makes it more difficult to get supplies and more expensive as well. And cars are assembled from an awful lot of component parts. The second issue was the high cost of energy. Now, that's not Brexit, of course. Nor is it Putin's fault directly, because people say, oh, that's the invasion of Ukraine. No, that's just made it worse. Other countries have suffered from the same energy problems from the invasion of Ukraine. In fact, most countries on the continent have suffered more so, because we didn't really buy that much from Russia. But it's only in Britain that large multinationals, large businesses in general, are saying that the cost of energy is causing them to become uncompetitive. Actually, there's quite a lot of smaller businesses have already just gone under because they simply couldn't afford a trebling of their energy costs. It's because our government have protected oil and energy company profits instead of the rest of our economy. But when you hear what Nissan are after, it's quite clear they don't really consider the energy cost to be the main problem. See, when a business says that operating in a particular area is uncompetitive, what they'll do is they'll say what they'd like the government to do to help. It might be improvements to transport links. It might be a focus on skills education in the local area. Sometimes they'll complain about regulations. When it comes to energy, they'll say, well, we need more energy support for business. No, what Nissan are asking for is government support, not investment in local infrastructure, not a change in regulation. What they mean is taxpayer money to be handed over, whether in the form of tax breaks or something else, don't know. But what they want is cash. Now, all businesses would love the government to just hand over a load of cash. And when the Tories are in power, you get a few businesses will donate a bit to them, so they do that. You always give it a go. Of course you do. It's much easier to turn a profit if the government just hands over our hard-earned taxes. So, of course, you're going to ask for that as an easy option. But you would expect some more practical suggestions as well, because every business is going to understand the Tories can't actually afford to prop up every business in the country. So there's a good chance they'll say no. So ask for something more feasible as well. And although I said Sunderland voted leave, they were at least sensible enough to not vote Tory in 2019. So sympathy can be higher for the whole community. I always have sympathy anyway, because even in a community that voted leave and voted Tory, some will not have done. But Sunderland at least did not vote really to leave the EU, because the main vote for that was 2019. Everyone knew what it was going to mean at that point. If other northern industrial towns had voted the way Sunderland did in 2019, none of them would be facing these Brexit or energy costs right now, because we wouldn't have left the EU. And the Tories, who may still have formed the government, wouldn't have had the numbers to push a budget which prioritised oil company profits over costs for people and valuable businesses. But the point is that the Tories won't be particularly bothered about propping up Nissan in Sunderland. They're not keen on state intervention of this kind anyway, and it won't actually help them win the election. So they won't be interested in corrupt payments either. The only thing that might make the government interested is the damage it could do to the Brexit debate if Nissan, the Brexiteers' poster boy in the car manufacturing industry, were to close this plant. And if it were just energy costs, or even if that were a key part of the puzzle, Nissan wouldn't really be in danger of closing down, because the energy prices are very high, especially for businesses, and they'll remain high for some time despite the cost of fuel coming down. But the prices will come down eventually. And what Nissan are reported to be going on about in this article are the supply chains, the things that are going to last for the foreseeable future, and the need for government support, of course. Now, we can leave this government support to one side, really, because an established business that needs government support to manage doesn't have a viable business plan. Like, it's one thing to incentivise a new industry, like green tech, for example, because in order to push that, you're going to need new businesses, or maybe established ones working on untested production lines. So yes, state aid there. America's going big on that. The EU are talking about doing the same thing now. It's only us going, oh no, America's doing this thing. Oh my God. Oh, the EU's doing this thing. Oh, what should we do? Oh, let's do nothing. But that sort of thing's fine because it's like a growing industry. But once it's established, then you either have a sensible business model or you don't. You don't need the extra help. Either you know what you're doing or you don't. The focus here on why this plant in Sunderland doesn't have a viable business model without UK taxpayers just handing over our cash to make them pretend they do. Because they're long established. And the issue they are talking about is the supply chain. They said we need a supplier base. They said it's more expensive to do business in Britain than equivalent countries on the continent. And they said they wanted a localization of the supply chain. I'll bet they do. But that means having all of the components and materials that they need sold in Britain so that they avoid the trade barriers with European suppliers. But if there was a viable business case for that to happen post-Brexit, it would already be happening. And it's not like any government is seriously going to nationalise car manufacturing. There are a lot of much higher priority sectors to nationalise if any government minded to do so could get away with splashing the cash on something like that. The bottom line here is that Nissan are saying the only way car manufacture really has a future in Britain is if the government takes cash from other sectors of the economy, higher taxes, and spends it on car manufacture in order to provide a facade, to pretend that we still have a viable industry. And I don't see how that's in the interests of any government to do. A party which doesn't like levying taxes won't want to do so in order to prop up an industry that the only economists they listen to told them to abandon anyway. A party which is less tax averse is also not going to want to spend tax money on corporate profits to help one business when there's so much investment needed in infrastructure to help every business in the country, including in Sunderland. If supply chains are the issue, then the only viable solution is to re-establish our connection to that supply chain, the one we were part of that worked. That means closer alignment with the EU, eventually rejoining the single market and customs union at least. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.